evening. We will be calling to order the City of Rollingwood Utility Commission meeting for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And we will begin with roll call. I guess starting on the
Chris
left.
Kirksey.
Clark Wilson.
Jonathan Miller.
Walter Rollison.
Elizabeth Bray.
Thank you. Open it up for public comments, if there are any. There are no public comments, so we're moving on to the consent agenda, which is, the first one is discussion and possible action on the minutes from the February 7th, 2023 Utility Commission meeting. The minutes were included in the packet. I don't know if anyone had any comments, concerns, or questions around the minutes.
None.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I made a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He said motion.
It passes. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Getting back to discussion and possible action on the cellular service survey questionnaire and methods of distribution. Discussion that we had prior to the last meeting. I know it went to council, and there's some comments back from city council for us to address. So one reason why I thought we should have the meeting tonight to do that.
Yes. So it was the draft. All of these questions were approved by City Council. There was one suggestion to add a question after talking about. Oh, that's scary. I don't know where that was coming from. After item 8, where it talked about using Wi-Fi calling and does it work within range, there was a request, and especially after the last winter storm, was if the power is off and you don't have Wi-Fi, does that affect your ability to make calls? So if you're not able to use your Wi-Fi calling because there's no power, or I guess if you don't have Wi-Fi calling as well, if that affects your ability to call out or have cell service. So that was one suggestion from City Council. They generally approved it. I think we'd like to bring back next month how we'd like to distribute it. So we were happy to talk about the different options and just kind of get your feedback on if y'all wanted like a postcard sent out, just digital survey, strictly phone calls. So that way maybe only the ones with service might actually hear it, but just kind of get your feedback and we'll take it back to them for final approval.
So what fraction of the city residents have the connection with you that I have, which is I get a call in my office, I get a text message, and I get a phone call on
Every
my cell.
possible way. It's hard to tell, especially because some of those might be older. People may move out or still be subscribed to work. We try to take them off once they move out, but it doesn't always happen, and we can't really guarantee that everyone signs up either. So I wouldn't say it's everybody, but I think we could also supplement. So we could send it out via Swift, use all the options we have. We have email, call, and text. We can do our social media channels. We can do our website. Nextdoor is usually pretty, kind of gets the word out there. We could ask other groups to help share it. We've reached out previously to the Gentlemen's Club or the Women's Club to have them help share those kind of things. Or we could also do a postcard that could either, have the information on it and they can drop it off, or, have a link or a QR code that says, please go here and fill out this super quick survey. So a lot of options at our disposal.
I'm a fan of most of them except the postcard, because I think it's an unnecessary expense.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest fan of, the text messages to see if people actually get them on their phone and they respond to them.
I suppose
Right.
it's possible people won't get the text
Yeah.
message. but
Possibly,
Yes.
yes.
And so, doing it via email and text at the
Yep.
same time, and or social, and asking other groups to help forward. I just don't think that we need to go to the expense of those.
Right.
So this would leverage a system we already have in place,
Mhm.
and once the format for the survey, online is completed, wherever it directs people, it's just a matter of hitting send, right?
Pretty much, yeah. We have the ability to do forms on our website where they would just go fill it out just like another application, and then we would get all the responses. So we could accumulate those. We could even do Google Forms, which might help us better analyze the data later, make a
I was
charts
going to
and-
ask if there is, whatever system is it that manual where you'll be going through and saying, yes to question one, yes to question. Yeah.
Probably with our website it is, but I think we could do a Google form or potentially like a Survey Monkey or
SurveyMonkey.
something. I don't think it'd be too tough to do, one survey through that platform. So
But, yeah, if you had an automatic way to map the city with a red
that'd
dot
be
or
cool.
a green dot
Yeah.
for each response, that would be valuable.
I like it. We look for interns. Maybe have them do that
Well,
for us.
Google might have the capability in their software.
That's true. Google's probably our best bet on something like that. So
Or
But-
there's kids that need service hours this time of year, so.
I like it. Red, yellow,
Map and
green.
Thumbtacks. So, one, I guess the first item is, are we generally supportive of the recommendations from city council and the changes to the questions, which I think we're fine. I don't think there's any particular pushback on those. Do we need to
Just as
vote?
long, sorry, just as long as the wording on whatever one we haven't seen yet is clear.
Right,
you
and
know.
it would ultimately go to them for approval. The gist of the question was, add a question about cell service when power is out and there's no Wi-Fi calling available. So maybe under item 8, instead of do you use Wi-Fi calling, we could talk about whether you do or don't have Wi-Fi calling. When the power is out and you don't have ability for Wi-Fi calling. I don't know if we'd make that a how is your service? Do you have service? I don't know. Does your service get worse? Improve? It's a lot more to that
is
now
the-
that I'm thinking
There's-
about how we word
there's
the question.
Exactly, how you word the question,
Cool.
because how you word it is how you're gonna be able to understand the responses to it. And I
Mhm.
think that one,
I
given
think at
its,
the heart of the question it was, if you do not have Wi-Fi available, do you normally use Wi-Fi for your calling? And if that's not available, are you unable to call from your house? That's the gist of the question. It was an emergency situation with the ice storm that when Wi-Fi gets knocked out, are you
Yeah.
unable to call out?
so
I don't know how that gets worded, but that was the crux of the concern.
I just think to help with that, it should be two separate questions, cause whenever you
Sure.
do do you this and if not that, that's always
Sure.
fraught, so. Do you use Wi-Fi calling is one question,
Yep.
and then the second, a different question is.
If Wi-Fi calling is
if
unavailable, can
Wi-Fi
you still make
calling
calls,
is
right? And is that-
unavailable, because we have it not just unavailable within winter storms, we have it often unavailable
Sure.
regularly because we have a secondary issue of,
Yeah.
32 different connections on any AT&T, for example, which is the majority provider here, and that can slow things down erratically.
Yeah, so maybe it was the concern, one, they wanted to make sure that people that say, well, Wi-Fi calling works fine, I don't have a problem with this in general, in which case they'd be like, no, Wi-Fi calling works great, I don't have an issue. And you say, well, great, if you don't have Wi-Fi calling, can you make a call? Or was it also specific to the storm, like they want to know in emergency situations only, I guess we're digging in
Well,
a
I
little too
guess
deep
you
here.
would have the question of, do you use Wi-Fi calling with your cellular service? And they would either say yes or no. If your answer to 10 was yes, if that's not available, would you be unable to call out?
I
Or
don't think
something like
if
that.
10 is yes, because this same question applies to people that never use Wi-Fi calling, and I think it
But
might
do we
be-
already have the question, can you not make calls? I guess that's,
So, and I think also we might be trying to differentiate between those who just say, hey, my service is amazing, but I also use Wi-Fi calling, so we don't know if that's,
Right.
The
a
reason.
cell, if that's only because they're Wi-Fi calling. So I'm thinking item 8, so we currently should probably break up item 8 into 2. So do you use Wi-Fi calling and has it worked when within range? So I think we should do you use Wi-Fi calling as a question. Has Wi-Fi calling worked when within range? And then maybe the next one, if Wi-Fi calling is unavailable, does your service decrease, or is that maybe the direction
So-
we're wanting to go?
If you're gonna break it into two questions, I think on this and the other earlier question we're debating, you might wanna say, what percentage of time do you estimate your Wi-Fi calling works within range? It would be helpful to get a barometer on, it's 100% or it's 20%.
Mm-hmm.
That answers the question. And when you don't use Wi-Fi calling, are you able to make cellular, what percentage of the time do you feel you're able to make cellular calls without Wi-Fi?
Okay.
I don't think people would understand that, I'm sorry.
Maybe not the way I worded it, but
Right.
I think you
I'm not
understand the
calling-
gist.
I mean, I think people typically either have their phone set on to go to Wi-Fi if available or not, right? I mean, isn't that the way most people operate to begin with?
Yes, but
Right.
but it doesn't always function. There are many times that I'm on Wi-Fi calling and the call drops and it
Sure.
doesn't work, so I have to either refresh the Wi-Fi or get off Wi-Fi to see if I can get a cellular signal. And so what we're trying to get to here through the entire survey is how many people have a problem and how big is the problem.
Sure.
And so to have quantifiers to their best of their ability, worded surely better than I did, but to have that opportunity is the nut that we're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. And I think that would go a long way for cellular service companies when they say, oh, well, then just use indoor solutions. And if we go, well, we ask people about those and they say Wi-Fi calling only works X amount of the time. And so we would actually want to pursue those outdoor solutions. Could I suggest, so I think we rework item 8 and then discuss adding in one about when it doesn't work. And could I share this through our small subcommittee?
Why don't we do that?
Get some language we like, and then once y'all are good with it, with the utility commission's blessing, we'll take it up to council?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we can wait.
I think we'll survive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we should be able to get that done in time for the next council
Okay.
meeting. So,
We'll circulate
Yeah.
some ideas on those questions.
sounds great.
Perfect. And seeing as I misplaced, I think our next item, how many pages do I have here?
Update on water.
Oh, the update on the water capital improvement project, is that the?
Yeah.
All right. So at the November bond election, that 5.3 million was approved for water system improvements in accordance with our water CIP. That was, of course, an estimate at the time, and so we'll have to kind of see how construction costs and design costs work out. But I am excited to say we do have, from our city engineer, they were able to bring forward a proposal for design, bid, and construction phases, so where they would kind of help us through that entire section, even through the construction. And they were able, with some working on different surveyors, were able to bring that down to a very, manageable cost. I wish I had the number off the top of my head. I could pull it up at a previous meeting, but it was 400 or so. And so they are actually underway this week with the field work. So surveyors began yesterday. You'll probably see them out in the community a little bit, but for the next probably 2 to 3 months, they will only be working in the right-of-ways for now. But once they're able to kind of get all the surveying information they need, there will be some geotechnical to make sure that the conditions underground are what we think they are, and that everything is a go there. And then they anticipate, I believe, the design to be completed in fall of 23, and we expect to begin construction late 2023. And we expect it to take about 12 months to finish all of those water line projects. So making good progress towards getting our water lines in shape.
Thank you.
And this is a webpage we created with the help of our engineers. We're going to be keeping this updated, every day or every time there's a new update. And we will figure out how to get this, easily accessible on our website and be sharing those updates with the community. They will be encouraged to reach out. There will be people on site who will have, contact information all the time. So if someone needs something immediately, and of course they can always call here, and we can connect them with someone who has the technical information they're looking for.
Perfect.
Yes.
Have they yet? They may not have this. They've just talked about the design, bid, and construction, and are still working on it. But have they done any timelines on where they're going to start and what order they're going to progress things, or is that still in the?
That may be in their quote. I know that they have broken it up into 4 packages, and that kind of will determine the way they took our, I guess, about 19 projects in the water CIP and broke them up into, either regional or things that made sense. I can actually share that information. Let me share that proposal with you all via email, and I'll go ahead and throw it in the packet for people wanting to watch, watching from home, so they can see that as well. But it just kind of talks about all the different, aspects of designing it. I know there are, different projects at different timelines. I just don't know if they're that zeroed in yet on what'll start first, how long certain areas will be under construction. But we assume we'll have that information as we get going.
Well, they. Sorry. So, Phil McDuffie. So to the best of my recollection, it was broken down, as Ashley said, into different projects, and then there was a prioritization on urgency of the projects. So there is a rough timeline of this will be taken on first, this second, this third, this fourth, based on the urgency, and that's done because of the fact that we don't, we've estimated the budget and that type of thing, and so we want to get the most urgent issues addressed first as the money goes. Good news is, because of Ashley's work and one of the other council members, well, I guess a couple of the other council members, some of the monies got squeezed out. So we are, so far, we were able to get that first cut, over $100,000 taken out of that. So that's helpful if we're able to continue to do that type of thing. And there are a possibility that we might be able to get some federal or state grants to pay for some or all of this. So we're going to be working on that as well. So all that to be said, we'll see how it goes. I mean, bottom line. But, and we won't be selling any bonds that we don't have to. Right.
Have we gotten any grants in the past? I know it's a frequent topic of discussion, but I was curious.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Very few, if any. At least when it comes to usually like water or other infrastructure, we aren't normally top of the list. Being in Rollingwood,
That's what I was wondering.
Demographics, I guess, aren't necessarily
works.
the first on the list, right, to get. But there is a lot of water funding coming down, or I guess infrastructure improvements coming down from the federal government. And so it's looking like the Water Development Board is going to see a really big influx, which might just, open it up for that 1 year or 2 years of, where we might actually make the cut on some projects.
We're well positioned this go. Great.
I'll also mention these packages that they've designed do not include the abandonment projects. So the abandonment projects were in the water CIP as, abandoning all the old water lines that were, behind homes or between homes. Those are going to be a lot more unknown due to just not really knowing exactly what's in the ground and where it is, and then easement needs and going on private property, and all of that's going to make those a lot more time consuming and possibly more expensive. And so they wanted to make sure we got through these 4 packages, which is all the rest of the improvements, and then we'll start on those once we have that completed. So those aren't quite as urgent. They do still cause some leaks and some outages, but it's less than some of these other larger projects. So
Any update on water meters?
getting close. So once we've actually kind of prioritized our projects, and once we finish the gas line extensions out to our lift stations, that's the very next one on our list. And they have just, I think this week, started on the first extension of a gas line to those projects, to the lift stations. So we kind of had, Public Works is working on 2 main projects. We prioritized those generators. We've kind of had them sitting back here, and we're ready to get those installed in the ground. And so once those are done, we do have quotes for the water meters, what it's going to cost us. Unfortunately, what we don't have quite yet is the installation costs. And so that's going to be quite a bit more costly than originally expected. I think back probably 3 or 4 years ago when they started these discussions, it was going to be about 300,000 was kind of what we were like, hey, this is what it's going to cost to do these. But we think probably with installation and all the hours and stuff might triple triple that. So that's going to be something that's our very next project. We really hope to get that off the ground in the next couple months. So
Have you been able to put the new electronic meters in as needed in new construction, for example? Or do you not have the supply?
not as frequently, and for a long time that was a supply chain issue, just not being able to get those meters. Now that they are available, it's more of a cost issue. So when you buy them in bulk, like we're going to, we'll see much more savings on them than when we buy them individually. And so when we're getting 600 meters, 400 of a certain size, 200 of another, we're going to get a lot better deal on them and then have less to pass on to the residents. And so we're kind of waiting on that. We really had hoped to be in a spot where we were replacing all the old meters with those digital meters, but we think it's just going to be a lot more efficient to do it all at once.
So back in July, when we had the water quality report and discussion, there were some actions taken, which I have questions on, and they may be related to the water improvements plan. We had, one of the takeaways, if I recall correctly, was to have a broader water sample from more houses and from across the city. It was my understanding that those water samples happened on a regular basis, but I think only one's been done. One round of them has been done since July.
So I unfortunately do not have the answers to those questions. Crossroads handles all of our water sampling for us, and I know they do them more than once a year. They do them frequently. They're in the community taking samples. That's also not on our agenda, but I'd be happy to share some more information at the next meeting. We actually
I'd
just
love
got.
to have the question put on for the next meeting because I know one of the houses that was put on the sampling. That has only had one sample done just a couple weeks after, and none since.
Sure, and unfortunately I don't have the answer to that question, but I'm happy to get it for you. We also just got all the information to fill out our next year's CCR, and so that will be happening over the next couple months, getting that report ready.
Just one thing that, the reason I ask it is in pertaining to the discussion that we're having today, that would provide a very, if it were thorough, a very interesting baseline, and then we do our improvements. And then if we continue the testing regularly, then we should be able to hopefully see some positive differences that are achieved in water quality, not just water service delivery.
Sure.
But we can't do that if we don't have programs as a baseline or moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Any other questions, comments, or requests for additional items to be put on for the agenda for next meeting while we're all here? No? With that, I would move to adjourn.